You're listening to the Major Pod Network, the only place where your favorite toy store, card shop, arcade, theme park, and arena are all on the same block. Scratch that major itch.
This is Tony Chimmel, and I'd like to introduce the hosts of the Game Marks podcast, George Feis and Johnny Clash.
Welcome to the Game Marks podcast presented by the Major Pod Network. I'm the man they call Johnny Clash.
And I, Mr. Anything is Feasible, George Feis, and today it's a special episode, ladies and gentlemen. We are doing a Q&A. We asked Twitter and our Discord and our Patreon to throw some questions our way. And here we go.
And please subscribe and leave a 5-star review for this podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And follow us on all forms of social media at GameMarksPod. And don't forget, you can get this episode early and ad-free at patreon.com/GameMarksPod. George, how you doing, buddy?
Good, man. As we are recording this, or no, the reason that you're listening to this is because now the baby Clash has arrived, and you're now Papa Clash.
This is me from the past.
Oh God, do we need a Daddy Clash shirt, like in the vein of Daddy Ass?
Oh, why don't we have that already? One of my favorite wrestlers.
What's a video game reference that it can be something Daddy Clash?
Stop losing at every game. I don't know.
All right, give your suggestions. Give your suggestions. We need an equivalent of Scissor Me for Johnny Clash.
Oh man, now the wheels are turning. Okay, that's going to be a good one.
Player 2 me.
No. All right, but yeah, we got a Q&A set for today. We asked Twitter, like George said before. We asked our Patreon, and these are just some questions that we came up with. We're going to talk about some video games. We're going to talk about our experiences with games. And let's start off with our good friend Tecker.
Oh, the man,
the winner of Gamebury 2 years in a row, says, "What's the worst gaming experience you've ever had? Not necessarily the worst game, but the worst experience that made you go, I don't know if I want to play video games anymore."
Now, I almost feel like we shouldn't think about this for too long. I feel like it's just like the gut reaction of whatever you think of first. And for some reason, the first thing that popped into my head was the Virtual Boy. And the only reason that it popped into my head is because if you played that for any longer than 20 minutes, you got a massive headache. And
yeah, I believe that.
I don't know if you've ever seen it or played it yourself, but you put on a headset, you leaned your head into this headset. So you needed to be sitting at the perfect height for the tripod that this headset sat on.
Oh God, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, you leaned into it, and it was just it was as bright as your
I just looked it up. Yeah, I know this thing. Why is everything red?
That's the thing. It's as bright as the cover on your microphone. Everything is that shade of red.
Damn.
It's just the brightest, most
Wario Land? I love Wario Land.
That's the game. That's the game that we played. It was
Do you still have this thing?
No, it wasn't even mine. It was my cousin's.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. What about you? What's your answer?
That's a lot of red. Everything's red. You know what it looks like when they used to show you the perspective from the dog in Rugrats and everything was red.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
I don't know why I remember this crap.
That's a great description.
So other than buying Prototype for full price,
one or two,
and then realizing what a terrible game it was an hour in, SmackDown versus Raw 707. One of them that had storyline creator.
Oh, yeah.
I created the longest storyline. I had a keyboard hooked up to my PS2. I was typing in text boxes, so I think Mickey James was involved, my creative character. I had like a TNA invasion where my guy brought in like AJ, Abyss, like the whole TNA roster to like invade. And then I was finally like, okay, finito, I'm done. Time to play it. I press play, game froze.
Oh, no.
And I was like, well, that was about a week's worth of time wasted, and that's that.
Was it just called Story? What was it that feature called? Story Designer?
Something like that.
Story?
Maybe it was 10? 10
11?
had story create mode.
It looks like it's an 11. Story Designer.
Whichever one Mickey James was in, because I definitely remember that.
Oh, I think it's in 10 and 11.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's in a couple of them.
Yeah.
I don't think that was ever a feature that I like used. I don't think I was in that.
I went in on it. The story was sick. It was like my guy came in with like his tag team partner, and then like AJ, I remember AJ, Abyss, like Bobby Roode and James Storm, like stormed the ring and like took over.
I see what you did.
Yeah, and then I think my tag partner like turned on me then, and then I was kicked out of TNA, and then I led Team WWE back against TNA.
Huh.
I don't know. It was weird times. 2010 sounds about right for my TNA obsession. So,
all right, that's interesting. I wish you could you had a version of that. Like it'd be great to just like read through those.
Like it was saved, but every time you went to play it, it would soft lock at the same part, and I couldn't play through it.
I wonder if that's ever going to make a comeback. People have been
that'd be cool.
saying for years they wanted GM mode to come back, and they did. So
I don't know if people are clamoring for story creator.
You never know. I'm sure you're not alone.
All right, Tekker's next question. What do you miss most about GMP 64? Now, if you don't know what GMP 64 is, that's where me and George split the rosters in No Mercy. We split the created wrestler slots, and we basically made our own wrestling TV show. It's all on YouTube, all of season 1, pay-per-views and all. Pay-per-views were all live on Twitch. It was such a fun time, but oh my God, was it time-consuming.
Number one favorite part was just the creative aspect of it, making the
stories,
wrestlers,
right?
making the storyline. Like we got really creative towards the end of season 1 and all of season 2, where we put extra little graphics. And there was a point where didn't Sting explode into birds or something?
Yeah.
Or something.
I think it was Sting versus Bray Wyatt, and the lights went out and then birds just flew all over. Because why not?
It was our show. We could have done however, as long as we had the capability of making these things happen, we did it.
We did some cool stuff.
Yeah. And the challenge of, we wanted to have a weird match that wasn't in No Mercy. So you scour the internet for message boards from the early 2000s of I got a Game Shark code to put an Inferno match in, or, make the table that's normally at ringside a casket for a casket match. Just finding all of these time machines, these time capsules on these message boards, all of these threads of codes that people spent hours crafting in Game Shark. For me, that was always the fun part.
Yeah. I think just writing the stories was just the fun part, but we will never have that amount of time that we had during the shutdown and both of us working at home. So
we could do one GMP show a year now.
If even. We tried season 2 with just monthly or whatever pay-per-views, and
we could just book a Mania every year and that'll be it.
We could try. That would be pretty
We just
cool.
do a Mania as part of Game Brie and that'll be it.
Yeah. Now, Tekker says, with Johnny Clash soon to be a father, has he thought about how he will introduce video games to his future child? I mean, really early, I'm just going to be playing a game and just hand them a controller that's not plugged in and be like, okay, no, you're a player too. So,
yeah.
I mean,
it's not like you play anything that's wildly inappropriate for a kid to
No.
You play NHL and Madden. So,
yeah, now WWE
and now
Harry
WWE.
Potter, Hogwarts, and it'll just my dad basically handed me his old NES, which took him what seemed like hours to plug in. This goes
yeah.
into the next question. Who is the family member who introduced you to video games, and what game was it? He just plugged his old NES in on my room TV, my old CRT TV.
Well, because you needed all the cables. You had
Oh my
the
God, so
cables
many
that came
cables.
out of the back of the console, and then you needed the converter so that it matched the plugs in the back.
That
and
converter was like my dad's enemy. Like he could never find it. He never had it. He always had to buy a new one.
Because it was literally a box where wires split into other wires, and if
It was
like
chaos.
anything got in that box, the box was ruined.
Or like the cable was not there, and then the cable didn't work on the TV. You had to go to channel 3. Oh,
You lose it because it's so small.
For some reason, it had an option to go to channel 4 that never worked. Like, why would you choose this? But the first games were, I mean, he handed me, we still have it, that NES box that like slid open. It had
the
Super
drawer.
Mario, which also had Duck Hunt. There was Zelda in there, the gold disc. How cool was that? There was Punch Out. And then I think I definitely went to the flea market and I bought Double Dribble and Blades of Steel.
Blades of Steel.
And of course, Mickey Mouse Capades, one of my favorite games in the world. That was.
You can watch John play it on our YouTube if you want.
And there was a Sesame Street game because I was very little.
I know what game you're talking about.
It was so much fun.
It was it like the actual game, or was it like the educational one?
It was like half and half.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It was awesome.
I have to look it up.
Oh, that's something I would love to get now.
Is it so? There's Elmo's Letter Adventure. No, that's 99. That's definitely not that one.
Yeah, no.
There's 1, 2, 3. There's ABC, and then there's Big Bird's Hide and Seek.
It was 1, 2, 3. Yes,
Okay.
Ernie's, Magic Shapes, and Astro Grover. Yep, Astro Grover.
Astro Grover.
Yeah. Wow. We should play that. What about you?
Very similar story. My dad had an NES, and he used to hook it up in my bedroom. Do the like you just said, the long task of moving it from one room to another.
Oh my
You
God.
would either plug in set up regular Mario or Duck Hunt or Contra, the original Contra, and just play through those, and that was it. He would just play those games until I fell asleep, and who knows how long he sat in there after. Yeah. But yeah, that was my first introduction into all the games.
All the games. And
All
then
the games.
For me, it was Sega after that.
I stuck with Nintendo for a long time.
All right, now Tim Daniel, no S at the end of my last name, Tim Daniel 518 says, other than Here Comes the Pain, what WWE game had the best season mode, not counting showcases?
Ooh.
You know, my brain goes immediately to the GameCube.
Okay.
I love how Day of Reckoning 1 bleeds into Day of Reckoning 2, but then WrestleMania 19, in all of its ridiculousness, deserve every award possible.
I am inclined to agree with you on that. And I will give an honorable mention to the branching storylines for No Mercy.
Yes.
At the time,
That was nuts.
very, very innovative, very, very different from how all the other AKI and THQ games were playing. It's very linear. So to have these, I guess, if-then kind of storylines where the wins and losses actually mattered, and you couldn't just, like, if you were really good at the game, you couldn't just, if you won every time, it was the same story, and you just kept on the same branch as title defense. But if you lost, you went off different branches, you could experience different things. There was different dialogues for all this. So at the time, very innovative, but yeah, I'm very, very inclined to agree with everything that John just said. Day of Reckoning 1, 2, WrestleMania, they're all.
I enjoyed 2K19 story mode. You go to the Wyatt compound and all that.
I got to get in on that. I didn't play that one.
Yeah, you start in like the indies and like a gym. You work your way up. It's typical, but it was pretty cool.
Okay. It's on the list.
That's what made me look forward to 20 so much, and then we all know how that ended up.
Well,
And I didn't play My Rise in 22 at all. So something I'm going to be doing, which at the time this comes out, I probably have already done and have spoken about in previous episodes is my rise.
In 23.
In 23, yeah.
All right.
The Game Marks podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, providing precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. The Performance Package 4.0 has arrived, and oh man, is it a game changer.
It's the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. The Performance Package 4.0 comes with the Lawnmower 4.0, body hair trimmer, the Weed Whacker, ear and nose hair trimmer, below the belt toner and deodorant, performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold all your goodies.
It's definitely holding all my goodies, if you know what I mean. Over 7 million men worldwide trust Manscaped with their grooming needs, and we've got an exclusive offer for all of the Game Marks out there. You can get 20% off your order and free worldwide shipping just by using the code GameMarks at manscaped.com.
Unlock your confidence and always use the right tool for the job with Manscaped. Manscaped.com and use code GameMarks. Next question comes from Brandon Doty. And Brandon's question is, if you had to add a third member to your podcast from the Major family, who would it be and why?
Brian Myers, because he loves video games. Just kidding.
I want to say Brian Myers for the sake of I want like his raw, like unfiltered reaction to the games that he's literally never played. Like, as long as we don't play like Aladdin or Lion King, he's got no nostalgia goggles. So this is just like true, real reaction. And to me, I think that's great. I think that's like a diamond in the rough kind of thing. Like, there's not many people that you could say are fans of wrestling, are in the wrestling industry, but have very little to no wrestling experience. And they're also in wrestling games.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. I would say Dylan.
Yeah, Swoggle's the easy answer.
Talk to him all the time. You probably more than me, but I still talk to him quite a bit.
I mean, you get a like screaming shout out on every single episode of Going Postal. Every single one.
He's keeping me very busy these days. I'll say that with ACW stuff. So it's pretty cool. It's fun.
Carouse shirt coming soon.
Carouse. Yeah, I would love Dylan to be a third member.
Yeah. That's, who else? Who's maybe an unexpected? Oh, Shoes would be a good one too.
Shoes would be a good one. If you're listening to this, you already heard the Shoes interview, and it was also a fun time.
Yeah. We do 4-man booth. Me, you, Swoggle, Shoes.
We would never talk about video games.
We would, and everyone would just talk over each other.
Honorable mention to my former tag partner who's been on a few episodes, Liam Davis, because he could keep a conversation going with the most ridiculous jokes that you haven't heard in a million years. I would kind of like my Rugrats reference before.
I would love to do like a bonus episode one day where we just give him a prompt. It's like, all right, we're going to give you a topic.
Whose line is it anyway?
You just go for 3 to 4 minutes, and then we'll stop you after for 3 or 4 minutes, and then we'll give you another prompt. Because it would, without a doubt, be one of the most entertaining episodes ever.
And he could do it in a Jake the Snake voice that's like spot on.
He could do it in a lot of different wrestlers' voices.
All right. Soups asks, what was your go-to sleepover game?
Oh, I got 2.
I think I do also.
The Tony Hawk Underground comes to mind as a big one. But then there's so many, like, it's like every wrestling game, like Revenge, World Tour. It all depends on like what age the sleepovers are happening. Because obviously there's a big jump in time between World Tour and Tony Hawk's Underground.
Yeah, I don't know what sleepovers are happening during Underground.
Well, it's like you know, like you go over to your. Well, what year is it? Maybe I'm not thinking Underground. Maybe I'm thinking of one of the.
I'm not. Let's like not games that like, oh, you're just like crashing at a buddy's place because you guys were hanging out and it's like a full blown
planned.
like sleep.
That's what Underground was. Underground was you go to your friend's house for like I would go to my friend's house for like a party, and then
you're not driving home.
Yeah, and it's like, well,
right.
I guess we'll just stay up as long as we can until we pass out. And the only game that we all know how to play is Underground. So
that was Gears of War for me, and Super Smash Brothers Brawl.
Okay, so
I hated.
We're not going to count Underground then. That's 03. So that checks out. That checks out with
that checks out
with what you brought up. It's Revenge, World Tour. Those are the two that jump out. Maybe even a little Smash Brothers. A lot of N64 games.
See, we started with Attitude. And only one of our friends had it. I didn't have it. He would bring it over. He was obviously way better at it than us because he owned it, and he would just whoop us. And then I remember no one could beat him. And finally, this kid who he hated, like they didn't get along at all, was on the way to beating him, and we were all chanting his name. And like he was Owen Hart. I remember he was trying to get the sharpshooter, and like we weren't allowed to pause and look at the menu. So like someone's on the computer, like on dial up, like trying to like call it out. Oh my God. And then that quickly became Tony Hawk 2 was our game where we just competed over. We had Master of the Game tournament. I think I talked about it on here before. Yep. Whoever had the highest point. So you were the master of the game, and that was it. You had to defend your title next. And with my cousins, it was always James Bond Nightfire. Always.
Yeah, and you've talked about that
Nightfire.
You've talked about that a ton on the podcast. Hell, we played it on OMG.
Capture the Flag over and over again with all the bots. There was one where we just did explosives only, and it gave us tripwire, like primary weapon tripwire, unlimited.
Did that happen when we played too?
Maybe, but whatever the setting was, we can never figure it out again what we set it to have that much tripwire that we were just putting it everywhere, and it was just
my God. The game had to be so slow, probably so laggy.
No, because it was on GameCube, the greatest system in the world.
Yeah, but like 50 trip mines going off all at once. It probably still slowed the game down at some point.
Yeah.
All right, Will McDonough. You okay?
I dropped my controller. That was. I have like a little thing over here that holds the controller by a wire. My knee hit it.
Will McDonough. Will's question is, what do you think is objectively the best game of all time, knowing full well it's a subjective question? And then side note, also, why is it Tetris?
Ooh, that's a good point.
It's hard to argue Tetris.
You don't have to think about like a long, drawn out game like when Tetris.
It's hard to argue Tetris.
If we're going by those like parameters, I mean, Super Mario Brothers also.
Pac-Man.
You could get bored of Pac-Man though.
Space Invaders.
During
the
beginning of the pandemic, me and my wife played Tetris every single day against each other on our phones. Oh. The licensed Tetris game.
The Tetris Smash, whatever.
No, it was just Tetris. It was licensed and everything. And then like halfway through, they were just like, we're no longer supporting this and it's leaving and you can never play it again. And it's gone. They just removed Tetris. How do you do that?
The memories low.
Like what? Obviously, I'm going to say The Last of Us Part 1 as well. Is the greatest game in the world.
Yeah, one of the Spider-Mans is up there too.
I told you I prefer Miles Morales as the.
I think that's a preference, but I it's one of them.
They built
like I love
was already
both
a perfect game, so
it's 1 and 1A in my.
Who
mind.
would have thought just adding a little cell phone made the game so much better?
It's just, yeah.
Oh, now you can go see all the missions you're missing and do them.
I'm also big fan. I think I've talked about it on the podcast. One of my favorite series of all time is Donkey Kong Country. I think Donkey Kong Country 2 on the Super Nintendo is probably my favorite game of all time.
I remember playing through that on an emulator.
It's just so good, and it ages it ages like a fine wine. Like the graphics still hold up. The soundtrack is, in my opinion, one of the best soundtracks in video games. What's your final answer, though? It's hard to argue Tetris, though.
It's hard to argue it.
That's such a good point.
Yeah, sure. I'll stick with it. I can't argue it.
Yeah.
There's even a movie coming out about it.
Yeah, and it came with every Game Boy.
It did. Yeah, that's how I got it.
Game Boy.
My big gray box.
It's Tetris. It's got to be Tetris. Damn, what a question. All right.
Try to argue. Someone try to argue us.
Yeah. Next question comes from Monster Zero on.
I keep dropping this damn controller.
Monster Zero on Twitter.
Oh, because it's
at
over here.
Caesar Romero. And their question is top 5 best looking crowds in wrestling games.
Oh, God. I don't know if we could do that. I also don't know if that's just because we always talk about the crowd.
But is it best crowd because visual?
Well, it says best
appearing?
looking.
Oh, best looking. Yeah. So anything on the PlayStation 1 and the N64
Yes.
gone. It's all paper crowds.
WrestleMania, the arcade game. You got the developers in there. You got just a cool looking crowd. I'm looking at it right now up top here.
Yeah, you really
I'm going to say
took
Fire
the wind
Pro
out
World.
of sails with that
Fire
one.
Pro World.
Fire Pro Wrestling World is banger.
That's 2. Honestly, a lot of the Japanese games had really good crowds.
There was a Japanese wrestling game that we played recently, and I remember one of us saying, like, for a game that is this old, it has no right to have a crowd that looks this good. I'm trying to jog my memory. I'm going to go to the
list.
I'm going to go to the list and see.
Yeah, a lot of paper crowds in history. So, Retromania has a good crowd.
Retromania has a great crowd.
Yeah.
Stang's in that crowd.
Stang's in the crowd. It's funny, like what you think growing up was a good crowd compared to now. Like I always thought Mayhem had such a good crowd. It is not a good crowd. It's like flat. Like there's no depth to it. Like it's just a flat crowd. Super weird.
I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Seeing the name that's jogging my memory.
We could say most of the Fire Pro crowds were just spot on.
I would say it's most of the Fire Pro games. Have
This is a tough question.
Insane crowds. Huh.
What about Cutie Suzuki? We haven't brought that up in a while, that game.
It's
just a bunch of heads. It's just a bunch of heads in the crowd.
It has been a minute since you brought up that game.
Yeah, to name 5, that's tough. I think we got to go with those. And obviously the new 2K games, they're pretty good.
Ooh.
As long as everyone's
Guacamelee.
Guacamelee. Well, there's no. Is there a crowd? What? What, the NPCs?
Yeah, so what are we saying? We're saying
I don't think we could really give 5, but I'm going to go WrestleMania the arcade game. I'm going to go Retromania.
I agree with those two.
I'm going to go Fire Pro World.
Yep. I think we could just do a top 3 because naming 5, like you said, is very difficult.
The last few 2K games were pretty good.
I like it. I like that.
I still don't understand the crowds in sports games. Like I get Madden, you don't see the crowd because the field's big, but then it like cuts to the crowd so they could develop like those 10 people that they're showing.
Yeah.
And they're all wearing like your team stuff and whatever. But NHL, you see the crowd. They're so like in sync with each other that at the same time they're like do the same moves. But then the AI is just so dumb that it'll put like, I don't know if it's the Islanders versus the Devils. It'll put like Jack Hughes in an Islander jersey, like a crowd wearing an Islanders Hughes jersey, but he's on the Devils. And then like they hold these stupid signs that are in like basic Arial text that say like, "Go John." What? What are you doing? No one brings that.
That's my favorite sign to bring to every hockey game that I go to. It's just first name of a player on the team that I'm rooting for.
Yeah, it's so stupid. That's like, I love those games, but oh man, there could be so many things improved. Whatever. All right,
You take the next two.
Coming down to the wire here. Brian Barrera, WCW Worldwide, asks, question for Johnny. You retire from wrestling for good, or is this like Kiss, where you'll be back 8 times? They were only back 8 times? I thought it was more. I went to their farewell tour in like 2006, and now they have another farewell tour.
Say,
Okay?
now friend of the show, TK Wild, going to the farewell tour.
I went with, I didn't go with him the first time. No, I went with my friend Chris. It was great. It was them and Aerosmith, and Saliva opened for them. And my uncle took us, and he was like, Saliva was making my eyeballs bounce because the volume was just cranked for Saliva. And it was Jones Beach. Nothing's loud.
Such a weird combination of bands.
Nothing is loud at Jones Beach because the volume just goes up because it's a beach.
Yeah.
But Saliva was fucking loud. And I saw Slipknot there, and they sounded great.
Saliva, Aerosmith, Kiss.
Yeah, that was the tour. I mostly went for Saliva.
It's
great concert. Anyway, no, I'm done. I'm done wrestling, so that's it. I took one bump from Tommy Dreamer the other day as a manager. He brought me in the ring the hard way.
Big Bird.
Yeah, he brought me in the hard way. I took one bump, and the second it happened, I went, "Oh fuck!" I don't know if I'm getting up.
Wait, did you do the flip over the ropes?
Yeah, like he grabbed the ropes and he pulled me in with the ropes, and then him and CPA gave me the "what's up." Yeah, I'm still feeling it today. It's been almost a week, so.
Oh God,
I'm done, guys. I'm done. I have a 0 lumbar. It has deteriorated, and I'm building it back with DDP Yoga Cell. Let's go.
All right. Well, that's what we know now.
All right.
Bumps hurt.
Question for both. Favorite horror game?
The Last of Us.
Would you consider that a horror game? I would say like Left 4 Dead was cool. I enjoyed
Left 4 Dead. Oh, Jesus. I love Left 4 Dead. Left 4 Dead 2. It's like one of the best games.
I've always had Slenderman downloaded, but I never actually played it, but I've watched many people play it.
Yeah, that's a true horror game. Back 4 Blood is also another one. If you like Left 4 Dead, try Back 4 Blood.
I have that, yes. My cousins have been trying to get me to play that other one that has like all the horror characters in it. Dead by Daylight.
Dead by Daylight.
I have it downloaded. I have yet to play it though.
That's a fun game.
What was there was one years ago, like when PS4 just came out, and remember you could go online on PS4 and watch people play, and it was like the coolest thing ever before Twitch.
Yes, before it's like streaming was a real thing.
It was a horror game in an insane asylum, Outlast.
Oh yeah, Outlast.
And you would have to get like battery lights for your battery.
Yep.
I can't speak right now. Batteries for your light, and you would go through like the insane asylum. And you would have to try to like outlast.
Yep.
Me and my friend would sit there and just watch it and be like, this is so cool. But neither of us had it. So we would just watch it.
And sometimes that's all you need. You don't need to play the...
I want a good like horror VR game.
Oh, there's plenty.
Like I would like to say Left 4 Dead. I'm not Left 4 Dead. Evil Dead, but it's like
all the Resident Evil games are really good.
It's the hokey... Evil Dead that you get, not the new Evil Dead. Like it's Bruce Campbell Evil Dead.
What's another good horror game?
I had a demo CD for the PS1 that had so many, and there was some horror games on there.
Oh, there was a lot.
Yeah,
there was a lot. I remember there was that one demo disc that had Dino Crisis on it, and I was like, Dino Crisis is going to be the most amazing game. And then I loaded it up and I played through like the first level, and I was like, this game is insanely hard.
Yeah, mine had Resident Evil, it had Jersey Devil, it had Warzone. Warzone, where you could only play Shawn Michaels versus Stone Cold.
Was it the one with Too Extreme?
Spyro, yeah, Too Extreme, Cool Borders.
Inline skate, inline rollerblading, whatever.
It was like Demo Disc 13 or something like that. I remember.
Bring back Demo Disc, guys.
Please. Duke Nukem Time to Kill was on it.
Oh God, Duke Nukem.
Looks like it's time to kill. Great game. Yeah, that's kind of the last question.
All right. Well, this was fun. I love doing these. I think we've done like one a year throughout the life of the podcast. So this checks out. These are always fun. We love to hear from you guys and interact.
Just talking about games.
Questions.
Yeah, just talking about different games.
And listen, your questions don't have to be limited to just these Q&A episodes. You can always reach out to us on all forms of social media at GameMarksPod. And if you got a interesting question, maybe just make it onto the podcast. So never be afraid to just reach out to us on social media. But with that, guys, youtube.com/GameMarksPodcast. I can't talk.
You can do it.
Yeah, I need. You got any more?
I'm the one drinking. Yeah, I'm the one drinking.
Take another swig for me.
It's done.
It'll
I'm done.
help me get through this.
Finished
Damn.
both of them.
Damn. All right. Well, youtube.com/GameMarksPodcast for our weekly playthrough videos, exclusive content, and more. GameMarksPod.com/shop for all of our exclusive merchandise. ProWrestlingTees.com/GameMarksPod.
Do it. I need diapers.
For all of our shirt designs, including all of our new ones. Oh God, I want the Daddy Clash shirt. That needs to be up by the time this comes out. At GameMarksPod on all forms of social media. And please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell. Oh, he's so good at this. And leave a 5-star rating and review for this podcast on both Apple Podcast and Spotify. And if you have a podcast, if you have a product or service that you would like to advertise on this podcast, please reach out to us at GameMarksPod@gmail.com.
We have fun here.
Daddy Clash, do that thing.
Game over. Marks.
Game Marks Podcast, put them on the radar. Playing rare games, Sega Saturn, no Game Shark. Johnny and George work hard and they play hard. Future endeavor games and put them in the graveyard. From the deep dive to the clash at the feast. How can I get more? That's question of the week. Follow on Twitch, there's nothing that they won't play. Game Marks Podcast every single Monday.